So I take it that you probably heard about an API, is working with an API, or just stumbled upon an API, but you're not 100% sure what an API is or what it does. You have come to the right place because I'm going to explain to you what an API is all about in a way that you understand. An API stands for Application Programming Interface. Now, I'm sure you already know about it, so there's no point in me talking about the same thing again. But sometimes, somewhere inside your head, you would have gone, what the heck is an application programming interface and why would I need to use one? When I started working with APIs, I did not have any understanding about what an API was. So, like many others, I took to Google to get some answers. And the definitions that Google and Wikipedia and all these different websites gave me was in gobbledygook, unfortunately. So at that time, I really thought that API was something very complex that a beginner programmer would never understand or know how to use. But turns out that API is not that complex after all. An API is nothing but an interface used by one application to interact with another application. Let's understand the API in more detail by going through an example. For instance, let's say I want to book a flight from Colombo to Singapore. What are my options? One such option is that if I know directly which flight I'm going to board, I can directly log on to the website, for example, SriLankan.com or Emirates or Qatar, and then give the dates that I want to travel, book the seat, and I'm done. Now, what really happens in a scenario like this is when I log on to SriLankan.com and give in the dates that I'm looking to fly for, the Sri Lankan website is actually directly communicating with the Sri Lankan Airlines server, which also contains a database which is remotely located in some part of the world. Now, the database contains all the information about the flight I'm looking for, the price details, the seat numbers, everything. So what this server does is it will return back all the data that I'm looking for and display it on the SriLankan.com website. Now, if you're like me and if you like to have your options and not just stick to one aircraft, you would probably be using a second solution, and that is logging on to an online flight site like FindMyFare or PepMyTrip. There are lots of different alternatives like this. The real question here is, how does a third-party application like FindMyFare.com that does not operate any flights of its own get information about other airline systems? Do you think that FindMyFare is talking to the databases of each of these airline systems? If that was the case, it's surely going to be a disaster, right? Because FindMyFare, if it has access to the databases of each of these airline systems, they can do a lot of manipulations on those data. They can delete some records, they can add some records, change some records, get free tickets. So that is out of the question. FindMyFare talks to each of these airline systems through what is called an API. Truth be spoken, APIs are the real MVPs when it comes to us humans enjoying a connected world. Come to think of it, without APIs, FindMyFare would not even exist, because how would FindMyFare get details about different airline systems? So FindMyFare system is making use of these APIs which are put forward by each of these airline systems in order to get the details from them, that is the flights, what are the prices of their flights, what are the different seats they offer, etc. Display it on their website, get the users to interact with FindMyFare, and if they are booking some flight or on a particular date, it will then pass all of this information to the relevant airline system. So it is a two-way communication that is happening here. FindMyFare is one application that is connected with many different applications like airlines, Emirates Airlines, Air India, Qatar, Sri Lankan, all through the help of an API. Now let us go back to the definition of an API and see if we understand it better. An API is an interface used by one application to interact with another application. So in this particular example that I showed you, FindMyFare application is using an interface provided by these airline systems like Qatar or Emirates in order to interact with their system.